Picture this. No campfires, no candles, no stoves, no forges, no rockets. Just darkness, cold, and raw meat. Because that is the world we would be living in, if one ancient ancestor of ours never learned to control flame. And here is the terrifying truth about what humanity would actually look like today, without it. Roughly 1 to 2 million years ago, somewhere on the plains of Africa, an early hominin species, likely Homo erectus, did something no other animal on Earth had ever done. It tamed fire, and that single act quietly rewired the entire future of our species. Because fire was never just about warmth or light. It was the spark, quite literally, that separated us from every other creature walking the planet. Without fire, cooking would not exist. And cooking is not some minor convenience, it is one of the most important survival technologies our ancestors ever developed. Raw food is harder to chew, harder to digest, and delivers far fewer usable calories than cooked food. Meaning our ancestors would have spent nearly half of every single day just chewing, the way modern chimpanzees still do today, grinding through raw fruit, leaves, and tough meat for 6 or more hours, just to survive, leaving almost no time or energy for anything else, including thinking. Scientists studying human evolution, including primatologist Richard Wrangham, have argued that cooking fundamentally changed human biology. Because cooked food is easier to digest, it allowed our digestive tracts to shrink over generations. And that freed up enormous amounts of metabolic energy. Energy that was then redirected toward the one organ that made us who we are, the brain. Which is why some researchers believe that without fire and cooking, the human brain would never have tripled in size the way it did. Meaning, without fire, we might still be walking around with brains barely larger than a chimpanzee's. Incapable of language, incapable of complex tools, incapable of the abstract thought that built cities, written language, mathematics, and civilization itself. Now imagine that same ancestor at night, without any flame to keep predators away. Because fire was not just a kitchen tool, it was also humanity's oldest security system, keeping lions, hyenas, and saber-toothed cats at a distance while early humans slept on the open ground. And without that protective ring of light, our ancestors would have been forced to remain in trees or defensible rock shelters indefinitely, the way other primates still do, never developing the confidence or the freedom to sleep on open ground in large social groups, which many anthropologists believe was crucial for the development of complex language and cooperation, because sitting around a fire at night, safe from predators, is likely where early storytelling, planning, and social bonding actually began. Meaning fire may not just have built our bodies, it may have built our societies too. Then there is the question of geography, because fire allowed early humans to survive in cold climates that would otherwise have been lethal, and without it, our species would have almost certainly remained trapped near the equator, in the warm regions of Africa, and perhaps parts of southern Asia, unable to migrate into Europe, northern Asia, or eventually the Americas, which means no early humans crossing the Bering Land Bridge, no population spreading into what is now Russia, Scandinavia, or Canada, and an entire hemisphere of the planet might have remained completely untouched by human beings, for all of history, forever wild, forever empty of anything resembling a city or a farm. And even in the warm regions where humans could theoretically survive without fire, life would have remained brutally difficult, because fire did far more than cook food and scare off predators. It also hardened wooden spear tips, which archaeologists have found evidence of, dating back hundreds of thousands of years, meaning our ancestors' hunting weapons would have stayed weaker and less effective. It allowed early humans to clear land for future agriculture through controlled burns, meaning farming itself, one of the most important developments in human history, may never have emerged in any organized way. And without farming, there is no food surplus. And without food surplus, there is no possibility of dense permanent settlements. No cities, no specialized labor, no priests, no soldiers, no merchants, no scribes. Because every single person in a fireless, farmless world would need to spend all day, every day, simply gathering enough raw food to survive, leaving no one free to become a blacksmith, a builder, or a philosopher. Speaking of blacksmiths, none of them could exist anyway, because without fire, there is no metallurgy whatsoever. No smelting of copper, no bronze, no iron, no steel, which means the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, two entire eras that define how archaeologists categorize human technological progress, would simply never happen. And that means no metal tools, No metal weapons, no metal armor, no nails, no wheels with metal rims, no wells with metal buckets, no printing presses, because Gutenberg's printing press relied on metal type, no swords, no plows strong enough to till hard soil efficiently, and if you follow that thread all the way forward, no steam engines, because steam engines require burning fuel to boil water and generate pressure, which means no industrial revolution, no railroads, no factories, no engines of any kind. And if there is no industrial revolution, there is no electricity generation on any meaningful scale, because even hydroelectric and nuclear power stations were built using industrial tools and knowledge that trace their lineage directly back to fire-based metalworking and steam technology, meaning a fireless humanity would likely still be living in small nomadic bands today, exactly as it did 2 million years ago, forever, locked in the Stone Age, forever dependent on raw plants, insects, and whatever meat could be caught and eaten immediately before it spoiled. There is also a darker possibility that many scientists take seriously, that humanity might not have survived at all, because roughly 74,000 years ago, the Toba supervolcano erupted in what is now Indonesia, plunging the planet into a volcanic winter that some researchers believe nearly wiped out the entire human species, reducing our global population to perhaps only a few thousand individuals. And it was very likely fire, along with the warmth, cooked food, and protection it provided that helped those small surviving bands endure the freezing aftermath. Meaning a species without fire might have simply gone extinct during that catastrophic cold snap, joining the long list of hominin species like the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, who did not make it into the modern era. And if that had happened, there would be no one left to ask this question at all. No one left to wonder what might have been. Even language itself might never have fully developed, because many linguists and anthropologists believe that the extended, safe evening hours spent around a fire gave early humans the first real opportunity for leisurely social interaction. A time not spent fleeing predators or foraging, but simply sitting together. And it is in that firelit downtime that complex vocal communication may have first flourished into something resembling true language, meaning our ability to gossip, teach, warn, and tell stories. The very foundation of culture and shared knowledge passed between generations might trace its roots directly back to those flickering flames. And without them, human communication might have remained as limited as it is among other great apes today. A handful of calls and gestures, instead of the tens of thousands of languages that exist on Earth right now. So when you really sit with this thought experiment, what becomes clear is this. Fire was not simply one invention among many in the long list of human achievements. It was the foundational invention, the one that made every single other invention possible. Because there is no cooked meal without fire, no metal tool without fire, no warm home in a cold climate without fire, no safe night's sleep in the open without fire, no rocket ship burning fuel into orbit without fire, no electric light bulb glowing in a factory built by an industry that itself was born from fire. And so, in a very real sense, every candle lit at a birthday party, every engine turning over in a car, every rocket launching toward the stars, and every warm meal shared at a dinner table today is a direct descendant of that first spark some anonymous ancestor captured and refused to let die, hundreds of thousands of years ago, on the plains of Africa, which means the true story of human civilization is not really the story of humans at all. It is the story of a single flame that humanity was lucky enough to catch and brave enough to keep.